You're listening to the What's Happening podcast with Gary Watts.
Good morning. I'm here with Kelly Hayworth, the City Administrator of the City of Coralville.
Good morning,
Kelly.
Gary. Good morning, Gary.
How are you?
Good.
So I think I wanted to start out with something a little different. Is tell us about your granddaughter. Tell us about what you went through, maybe if you want to, and what a joy she is, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, our Evie was born a year ago, and her first birthday was on Thanksgiving Day. And based on her story, that's a real blessing because she had a hard time when she was born, and she had to be flown from Waterloo to Stead Family Hospital. And it was really touch and go. And they, at the beginning, the first couple of days, didn't think that she was going to make it. And now here we are a year later, and she's thriving. And we just feel very blessed because it's really because of the great people at Stead Family Hospital. Her mom and dad are doing a great job in making sure that she gets the care and things that she needs. And she goes through and she has occupational therapy and physical therapy every week for a couple of days or a couple different times. And she's really doing a lot of things that they said would never be done.
Wow, that's fantastic. What a blessing. So as we get older, that kind of completes a circle being a grandparent, right?
Yeah, it does. It is the best. I've always heard how wonderful it is. And it truly is, it's it's a great blessing. And so we get pictures every day, and that really lights up your day.
That's a good thing about Zoom and FaceTime. You can see her every day. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it gives a new meaning to the wave at Kinnick. Right?
It does. It really does for us. This Thanksgiving morning a year ago, her grandparents, there's 6 of us, went out in front of Stead Family Hospital, and we waved to her because at that point we were still right in the midst of COVID, couldn't go in, couldn't see her. But that was something that we could do. So the wave is a really important thing for us.
I think it's one of the most special things about football, the college football season, is Iowa does that.
Yeah.
And the opposing team, comes out on the field and they wave, and what a neat
And
thing.
the officials, the coaches, everybody take that few seconds away.
No, that's a great thing. We had a cousin that had a baby that had some issues, and it's special to us too, just to think about what those kids are going through. So what a neat thing that Iowa does. So tell us a little bit about, sometimes as a city administrator, I'm sure you never get asked, tell us about your history. So if you could, maybe tell us where you came from, how'd you get to Coralville, what happened when you went to U of I, right?
Yeah.
And are you from Des Moines?
I'm originally from Des Moines. I grew up in Des Moines, and I went to the University of Iowa, got my undergraduate and then my MBA here, and met my wife, Nancy, here. And so we're true, we're black and gold, right to the heart. And we left for 3 years and went to Creston in Southwest Iowa. And I worked for the city down there and was the finance officer and did all kinds of other things as well when I was in Creston, smallest community I'd ever lived in. And I got the opportunity to come back to Coralville. And to be honest, when I took that position, I didn't know a lot about Coralville because when I went to the University of Iowa, you knew the strip, right? We would stop at McDonald's on First Avenue on the way into town from home, and we'd use the restaurants on Highway 6, never knowing some of the great things about Coralville. And so, that was back in 1988. So it's been a long time since we've been here. And Nancy and I love living in Coralville and working here.
Great. Well, you probably remember. Do you remember Lums?
Yes.
That's where the florist was.
Yeah.
On the strip right now.
Yeah. Remember Lums and Green Pepper, and there was just so many great places.
Right. I remember when Dick Myers was mayor back in the day.
Yes.
So a lot of people don't realize that I used to be a state municipal field division auditor. So I audited cities and schools for 3 years when I first got out of college. So
oh my God,
I don't think I ever did Coralville, but I knew about Coralville, and I knew Dick.
Yes,
Dick's a lot of fun.
Oh, he was a very good person. And, it was always fun with Dick, and going at late nights or early mornings or Sunday breakfast at the truck stop. And there's a lot of people you could see and meet there.
Right. So tell us a little bit about maybe some of your favorite projects and maybe a before when you first got here and now what Coralville looks like, and One of the ones that comes to my mind is tell us a little bit about the history and what you went through with IRL,
Yeah.
Iowa River Landing.
Well, yeah, um, Coralville was a different place back then. It was about a third the size it is today. So it was a little over 7,000 people, and today we're about 22,000.
Yeah, that's
And
good.
our daytime population is obviously much greater than that because we have a lot of people that work here or shop here. Um, we did a lot of visiting with the people that lived in Coralville at that time, and we did some community plans and some community surveys. And there were two or three different things that we found out really early on in that late '80s time period. Number one was that the Coralville Strip, they didn't like the image, they didn't like the looks of it. There were ditches there. It was just a hodgepodge of things, and so we'd get that comment. Number two, we'd get comments about the town center, and there wasn't a town center, and that they'd like to have more identity of the community and a town center district. And then the last one was we got lots of comments about the Iowa River, what is today the Iowa River Landing location, and people weren't proud of it. It was right there. That's the main entrance, if you will, to Coralville, to University of Iowa, athletics, hospital, Iowa City, and that's where you're coming in. It wasn't a very pretty place. It was an old industrial area that hadn't been paid a lot of attention to. We kind of ignored it at that time, and there were some abandoned warehouse buildings. There was a couple of junkyards there. There was a waste transfer station that wasn't regulated. There was the dirty bookstore,
Right.
adult bookstore, and there was also
The Red Stallion.
the Red Stallion, and so we kind of say anything people that don't know, because that was a long time ago, right? We just tell them it was a place that anything that you can think of you didn't want in your community was
Right.
in that one spot,
All in one area.
all in one area, and so that was really we heard a lot from people that they're proud of Coralville, but that they just didn't like the looks of our community, and that reflected both whether it was Highway 6 or First Avenue in the Iowa River Landing area.
So how did you go about tackling it? How did you go? Was there federal money, state money? How did you clean it all up? I mean, what a process it's been.
Yeah.
Uh,
There was a lot of parcels there, and we're very proud that we never condemned any properties. We always worked with every individual. Each one had different needs. Some of them wanted to retire, some of them wanted to expand and move. So there were a lot of different reasons, but we I vividly remember Gil Janes from Howard R. Green. He was an engineer there. He knew of a new federal program called the Brownsfield program, and it was just out under President Clinton at that time. And it was a program developed for just these types of issues. And they were doing a pilot program, and they had a few larger communities, larger being, the Chicagos and Detroits of the world in the program, but they wanted to prove that it could be done in any size community. And so Gil suggested that Coralville get involved, and we received our first federal EPA brownfields grant, and that really kicked it off because not only were you dealing with EPA and brownfields, but the president at that time had mandated that all federal agencies would work with these brownfields programs. So we worked with the federal DOT, Department of Transportation. We worked with the Army Corps of Engineers because we had obviously flooding issues. So we had all kinds of federal agencies that came in and helped us with the planning and telling us what would work, what might not work, what we should consider. And so we really had them as allies. They weren't there just to put a hammer down. They were there to help us.
Well, you've done a fantastic job. But how long was the process? It's been
It's
over
been a long
20
time.
years.
Yeah, well, it's
Thir-
probably close to 30 now because it
Wow.
was the late '80s, and in both the city council started in the early '80s doing goal setting sessions, and if this was prior to me, and we went back and read those goal setting sessions, and one of them said, we want to clean up that area, the old industrial park. And so that was one of their major goals. The next goal setting session, they said, we're the hub of hospitality in Coralville. We had, we were well known for all the hotel rooms that we had, and that was an important part of our community, the gas station, shopping, all of those kinds of things. And they wanted to see a convention center built here. And those were the two things that kind of we looked at and coalesced around, and that really kicked things off.
Right, it's been an amazing transformation. And now you look at it today, and the stores are vibrant. It's full. It seems like it's so much going on. I think there's a wrestling tournament now, the Gable Donnybrook.
Yep.
There's concerts going on in the arena. Tell us how you went around, getting the arena off the ground, and another really positive part of IRL.
Yeah, we had, we had some key anchors in the Iowa River Landing, one being the Coralville Hyatt Regency was an important anchor that served that hospitality business. We had Von Mar from a retail standpoint, but from the very beginning, an arena was a small seat arena was really looked at as a important thing that we would like to see here. And it's not something that we had. Couldn't have concerts a lot anymore because athletics were doing so well and so important. There just wasn't the availability of Carver, for example, for those kinds of things. And so that's one of the things that we heard as well. People wanted to be able to do some of those other things like concerts. And so, one of our key partners in all of this has been Josh Schomburger and the Iowa City Coralville Convention and Visitors Bureau. They have been real stalwarts in this. And it's amazing what's happened since we got it built. We've got this coming weekend, we have wrestlers coming from all around the world. The five top countries in both women's and men's will be here wrestling. And who would have ever thought that was going to happen in Coralville, alone in that particular area? And so that's just one example. The hockey team is doing outstanding. The volleyball, the University of Iowa volleyball, this is a perfect venue for them. Right. And it's very intimate, but it can be extremely loud. And, I've never heard anything like when we had the Girls State High School volleyball there. I had never heard anything so loud in my life, and they loved it.
Right. It was amazing. And the amount of traffic it generated was incredible. What a beautiful venue. And I heard just recently, I guess Chicago's coming in May. So
yeah.
I guess I'm old. So I remember Chicago.
Well,
at least the songs.
We've been talking about that, and they have done really well on sales so far.
Good.
And so they're holding their own. Josh Schomburger and I joke about, because he doesn't like country music, and we've got a lot of country concerts coming up. And so he really likes to pimp me about Chicago. Right. Outselling them so far.
It was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was after girls volleyball, and I was down at IRL. I don't know what I was doing, just on a shopping, just out looking around, doing some shopping. It was a Sunday afternoon. It was packed. And I looked at Becky and I said, what's going on? She goes, well, is volleyball still going on? I go, I don't think so. And it was packed, and it wasn't going on. But it just shows you how it's really changed. There's just a lot of activity in IRL right now. What's going on? What's going on out at the freeway? It looks like they're moving dirt. Is that an interchange?
Yeah.
What's happening by IRL there?
Yeah, we have a new interchange coming right there, and it's called a diverging diamond. And so you go to the opposite side of the road when you're crossing. And the reason for that is it provides free flow for left turners. And that work will really kick off in March of 2023. They're doing all the prep work right now, and they'll do one bridge in 23, and they'll do the other bridge in 24. And by the end of 24, we'll be ready to open the interchange, and it'll be able to handle more people and do it a lot more safely. So it's a very big project. It's the last one along our section of Interstate 80 that needs to be improved. A little over $40 million project. We were very lucky that we received a federal grant for half of that. And then the state of Iowa, through the Iowa Department of Transportation, is covering the other half.
Great. Another thing that's happened in Coralville over the history here since you've been in the city manager is the floods.
Yeah.
So, was it 93 and 2008, I think?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the floods and how that impacted Coralville and what you did about it, and renovated areas. And just tell us a little bit what you guys went through as a city with those floods.
Yeah, it was really devastating. We had a couple of smaller floods in 90 and 92 that was primarily from Clear Creek, and it affected a smaller area right along Highway 6 there from First Avenue to Clear Creek. And that was damaging, but, recoverable. Then came the 93 flood, and that was a 100-year flood and went for an extended period of time. It closed streets, closed Highway 6, closed First Avenue. You really had a hard time getting access even to the University of Iowa hospitals because there was only one way in. And the community was really devastated. The businesses, some of them had actually went through 3 separate floods in 1993. Some of them had actually started remodeling, and then another flood came, and another flood came. And so it was really devastating to people. And so we started doing the recovery work, knowing that if we didn't do something, that we wouldn't have a community anymore. And it was right at the heart of the community, right? And so, we did a lot of work. We put some berms in, we put in some pump stations, and all of that worked for some time until 2008. And then the floods of 2008 came, which was now a 500-year flood. And that, it was something that we had never seen in our area ever before. And it affected obviously not only us, but Iowa City and the University of Iowa as well. And all those improvements that we had made, it really was for naught because the railroad that runs along the Iowa River really had always protected Coralville. Well, it got completely blown out. And so all the work that we had done was for naught because we had these big holes in the dike, if you will, and just made a major devastation throughout the community. And so right in the middle of the floods, our city engineering staff, along with consultants, started putting together a plan. How much water was where, how deep was it? And they started putting the plan together. And lo and behold, by October of that year of 2008, we had a completed plan that said what we needed to do. The problem was it had a $50 million price tag to do that. But we knew that if we didn't do anything, the businesses weren't coming back. They looked at us and said, if you don't do anything, we can't. We've been through this once. Most of them had been in 1993 floods, and they said, we just won't redo it again. And so we started and working and worked hard. We worked with our U.S. senators, Harkin and Grassley at that time, worked with the governor at that time. Jim Fawcett, our mayor, was appointed to the state recovery board, and we started plugging away with it. And we got money in a gradual fashion, and we ended up at the end of the day, we got mostly state and federal grants that did $78 million worth of projects, and the community's a lot better for it. And all of that time, the efforts were not only let's recover and let's replace and come back, was to do it better. And so how can we be better than we were going into those floods? And that was an important mantra from the mayor and the council at that time is, we don't want to just be the same. We want to be better than we were before.
So you started in 2008 to improve it with a lot of the gates and a lot of the berms and pump stations. How long did it take to complete that?
That took about 4 years to get the major work. There was some minor things that had to continue to be done, and there's a couple small things that we still want to do today just to give us some extra protection. but that was a key thing. We had houses, right here where your office is. We had houses that had been flooded in 2003. They had been flooded now in 2008. Some of them had been flooded in those 90 and 92 floods. So some of those people had been through 3 floods, and they'd said enough.
Yeah.
They just couldn't do it anymore. And so we're very proud of the fact that we helped all of those people relocate. A lot of them in Coralville, some of them in other parts of Johnson County, but we were able to do that. And then came along, how do we replace it? Because we didn't want to use federal funds to replace this housing, because if we did, that meant we couldn't rebuild in those locations. And we're right in the middle of Coralville. This is where Coralville started. Some people don't realize Coralville this year in 2023, October 3rd, will be 150 years old.
I didn't know that either.
And so that's an important celebration. And we're starting that right now, and we're going to go all the way to October, and we're going to have fun and remember and look ahead.
Right.
But this is where Coralville started, was right at 5th Street and 1st Avenue. And that's where the mill started. That's, where they had ice off the river. I mean, all those things happened right there. And this is in the heart of our community. So if we weren't able to replace it, it would not have been a good place. And so we were very lucky that we used our own funds. We bought out the homeowners, helped them relocate. They were happy. And then the redevelopment occurred. And obviously you are an important part of that. And we appreciate that, because you reinvested in our community and you believed in what had been done for the flood improvements.
Right.
And that was a big deal. We had to convince people that, we knew what we were doing. And I think we're much better today than we were in 2007. That's for sure.
You look at the floods and how the horrible devastation, and then look what's been rebuilt since then. So a lot of good came out of it, but at the time it was awful.
Yeah.
I remember you did a lot of sandbagging, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a few things too.
Yeah, we did a lot of sandbagging. And the sad part was we held off the water for a long, long time, in
Right.
2008, and our sandbags worked. And then came the real devastation, and the water came down and it went over the spillway.
Yeah.
And, it just brought tears to your eyes, because all that work you'd done was for naught. And then you just saw things, people's livelihoods, right, or their homes were gone.
Wasn't that like July? Because I remember when it rained, it didn't rain like a half inch or an inch. It rained like 3 or 4 inches at a time.
Yeah.
It seemed like it rained every day.
Yep.
For several weeks in the summer. I think it was late July. I remember going out to the Coralville Dam and watching it go over the spillway, and it was mind-boggling. I think that's where that Devonian fossil gorge came from. I don't know what year that was.
Well, that was the 93 flood, and
93.
then we saw it again in the 2008, because 93 was the first time the spillway water had ever gone over that spillway,
Right.
ever. And it was a sad day.
Yeah, it was. But now, so are we ready for another flood? I mean, I hate to say it. There's not 1,000-year flood, is there?
Yeah, that's what we've lived through 100-year flood. We've lived through a 500-year flood. Hopefully, it doesn't get any worse than that. But
Right.
I think we're very prepared. The good thing is that all of us have worked together. The University of Iowa, Iowa City, and Coralville all have put together a plan. We are so lucky that we have the University of Iowa, their Hydraulics Institute.
Right.
They did more studies. The Iowa River is more studied and surveyed than any river in the world, because we had that institute here that did all that efforts. And, we're just extremely lucky that we have all that information, and we have them to help us anticipate what could happen in the future.
That's great. Well, what other projects do you have in Coralville? What's going on? Is there any growth? Is there any annexation in Coralville? Where's it growing? What are some other areas to talk about?
Well, we got a lot of growth happening in that whole area from Coral Ridge Avenue out to Interstate 380. There's about a third of the community that's out there and it's not developed. And with the new Forever Green Road interchange, that's a really important area for us. and new University of Iowa Hospital out there, right? And so that's really creating a significant amount of demand for new housing. And so you'll start to continue to see development out in that area. You'll also see we've got several businesses in Coralville that are working hard on expansions. We hear a lot about the economy, but they are continuing to plug on the Civcos of the world, the integrated DNAs of the world. Integrated DNA is converting two major buildings in the research park to additional facilities for them. Viewpoint Molecular just bought a building, and they've got a cure for cancer that they're working on. And they are going to be locating here, and they need to hire about 70 more people.
Great.
And these are good paying jobs, and they're going to be bringing people not only from outside the area, but hiring people from here as well. And they've made the decision that they're going to do their business here in Coralville, and with the help of the University of Iowa. So we're really lucky that kind of things are continuing to happen. 2025, that new hospital will open. So we're a couple years away from that, but that is going to have a major impact on our area. And one of the other things that we're working hard on with North Liberty is the extension of Forever Green Road from Dubuque Street over to 12th Avenue and Front Street, so that you'll have a complete shot from Dubuque all the way to Interstate 380. And so that corridor is going to become more and more important for our area.
Great. When you're talking about the corridor, when I look at the renovations of 380 and 80, what an amazing, I don't know what you call that, how they turn around or the circle or going in and out, but that's got to be a huge project. I know it's not even close yet, but what an amazing, it's so you never slow down, right?
Yeah.
Is that what do they call that?
Those are flyovers. So you have a much easier and gradual way to go from one interstate to the other. The good news of all that is that we're closer than we think. We can see the end point here. By next fall of 2023, they are ahead of schedule. And so the contractor has said August, September of 2023, they're going to be ready to fully open that interchange. The good news is it not only affects the people driving through, but also our local people driving, but it also enables us to open up the trail on Clear Creek that connects Coralville to Tiffin. And so the area under the bridges, this last weekend I went out and walked because they had one of them done under Interstate 380. That connection is done with Tiffin. The one at 80 is not yet. So next summer, you're going to be able to go from downtown Iowa City through Coralville, through Tiffin, and Johnson County is working on, they have the right-of-way and the money to take the trail on out to Kent Park.
Wow.
So that is going to be another great amenity that's a result of this 380 interchange project.
A couple of times, I don't know if people know this in Coralville, but you got single track bike trails, the Camp Cardinal, right as you come down to the base before you get onto Highway 6. The strip, amazing single track. The only mistake I did last year is I went out there and it was icy. And I had too much air in my tires. And I thought after I got done with that, I'm done. I need to get onto concrete or pavement. But what a nice area just on north or south. Camp Cardinal, you got great single track trails.
Yeah, single track, and then the flow trail out there. That's a very cool addition. I'm still a chicken. I stick on the concrete and on my road bike.
Right.
But Sherry Proud says she's going to get me on the flow trail and the single track this winter.
You should get a fat tire bike. Those are a blast. So tell us a little bit about bike riding. I know you have a certain group that does RAGBRAI every year. And I've talked to you about that a little bit, but tell us about how long that group's been together and what you guys do. What's your name of your group?
Well, the name of our group is Team Spare Tire, and you can imagine why that is. But there's 7 of us that have been riding together since about 1999. We started as a group. I had started about 3 years prior to that riding RAGBRAI, and so. My first RAGBRAI was in 1996, and I've been able to do it every year since then, some years twice, because I would go on the pre-ride with the organizers and do some planning work as well. And we're really excited that this year RAGBRAI is celebrating their 50th anniversary. So this is going to be a very, very special year. And so we every year get together and we plan ahead, and we find hosts that we stay with, and we stay in homes. We don't camp. But we've met some great people all across the state. In fact, in Charles City, I've stayed with the same gentleman 4 different times. When RAGBRAI's gone through, we have gone back there, and about 3 of us have a morning regimen that we ride 22 miles every morning before to get ready for RAGBRAI. So we'll ride 22 miles in the mornings, the same route up through Coralville and North Liberty, and out to the reservoir. And it's just a great way to start your day.
I bet. Is that on trails or you go on roads?
We go on roads.
Good.
Yeah, we got a couple trails and then mostly roads.
Good.
Yeah.
What people don't realize on RAGBRAI is that you can be on it. You can meet a judge, a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist. It's just all kinds of people. Firefighters from New York City. I mean, when you're out there, you meet so many neat people, and everybody's just riding their bike.
Yeah, and people from all over the world. This year, I talked to Matt Pippin. He's from our area, and he's now the RAGBRAI director. The first day of registrations this year, they had 8 new countries that people had registered from that they had never had before. They had all 50 states in the first day of people register. So, it's a fun tradition, and it is the world's largest organized bike ride in the country. Coralville's been lucky. We've been able to host it 5 times.
Wow.
Hopefully we'll get to host it a 6th time.
Right. What's amazing is people come from all over the country. You feel safe on it. Everybody takes care of each other. And then every little town that you go through, everybody rolls out the red carpet, and there's little bands, and there's little pens where you have, little calves and maybe some lambs. And I was thinking, and some hogs, and you think, well, people haven't seen that from New York City or in the big cities. They've never been to rural areas. So I think people just dance, have fun. All the churches have fantastic food. If you need something to eat, and there's pies and Mr. Pork Chops along the road. But if you haven't done RAGBRAI, you need to do RAGBRAI.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit, Kelly, about, I know you're real active in the Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us a little bit about your scouting adventures and what that means to you, and the scout camp up north at what's Howard Archery, right?
Yeah.
Scout camp.
Scouts is a very important part of my life. I grew up participating in Scouts, and my dad was a Scoutmaster. And so I learned early some of the advantages of that you can get from scouting, and the things that does for young men, and now young women as well. And so when I came here to Coralville, I had the opportunity to get re-involved, and my son decided that he wanted to be active, and so went through Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and I decided to go along for the ride with him. And it's been an important part of my life because it's fun to meet young men and see them develop and see what happens and how they can grow. And we've done a lot of fun things. We do a lot of outdoor activities. We've went whitewater rafting. We've went up to the Boundary Waters. We went to Key West and sailed sailboats. And so it's just a lot of different things that you can do. And Scout Camp, we've got a great district and council. And Hawkeye Area Council, I would say it's second to none in the country. And they've got great facilities at Howard Archery up by Central City. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. And it's a great place for young men and women to learn and, to really develop. And you see them, how it changes them.
I was in Scouts too, and I was a couple merit badges short of Eagle. And then quit.
I was the same way.
I guess I got interested in football or more in high school as a sophomore and sports, but I was a few merit badges away.
Yeah. You look back at that, and I've told Scouts that over and over again, that you gotta, you'll never regret putting that little extra effort. And so we work really hard to work around, because we've had kids that have been major runners at West High and played football and basketball or in music. And we have really worked hard around those schedules to make sure that they can still accommodate scouting. And I haven't met one of them that hasn't been proud of the fact that they've become an Eagle Scout.
Right. One of the most fun things I did was order the arrow, which I'm sure. And we were down at Camp Wapello in Ottumwa, and they came in at a ceremonial ring of fire. And they took us out in canoes, and we had to spend all night in the woods with just our sleeping bags. And I think we had 2 matches and an egg for breakfast. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? One match you light, you're trying to figure out how to get kindling to start a fire. And then what are you going to do with an egg? Just eat it raw? So that was an interesting adventure. But it's experiences like that you never forget in scouting. And you do remember it for the rest of your life, and you learn a lot of skills. So.
And the things you learned, I've talked to a couple of our scouts, former scouts that have gone on to the military,
right.
And they have performed at the top level. When they're going through basic training and through those areas, they get a bump in pay. If they're an Eagle Scout, they get a bump in pay in the military as soon as they start.
Right.
And but anyway, a couple of them have told me that their commanders know just from observing them that they're scouts because of the skills that they have.
That's a great thing. So anything else you want to add about Coralville, what's happening at the 150th anniversary, which I didn't know?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. And anything else going on in the community that you'd like to mention here?
Well, we've got a lot of great traditions in Coralville. Fourth of July is an important part to us. And so that's going to be expanded this year as part of the 150th, but we're going to have monthly activities. Coralville's historian, Rex Brandstatter, he kicked us off last week for our staff and did a whole history of Coralville that was outstanding. And so there's going to be a couple of opportunities for people of the public to come and hear more about our history from Rex and Keith Jones and people like that. And so I just encourage you to pay attention to what's going on this year and get involved.
Great. Well, so don't forget, it's 150 years of Coralville being a municipality. So that's a neat celebration. So, well, Kelly, thank you very much for coming in. It's been great. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Gary.
You bet. Have a good one.